Hi, everybody. Welcome to our very first hashtag SciComm September Live. My name is Ntigi Saki. For those of you who do not know me, I am the founder of Siakula Digital, which is a marketing agency that is more about science communication than anything else. We're all about celebrating, showcasing, and accelerating science and scientists in Africa. And today we have an exciting person to kick off SciComm September, and she's so infectious. Actually, I'm so excited to have a chat with her, and I know that you're all going to enjoy having her here. She's absolutely wonderful, and I hope that you all engage, ask questions. That's what it's all about. Her name is Keneiloe. Actually, no, let me start again. Her name is Dr. Keneiloe Molopyane, and she is the former curator at Sterkfontein Caves in Maropeng, which is the cradle of humankind. She's an archaeologist and biological anthropologist. She's the postdoc fellow for deep human exploration at WITS, and she's an explorer for National Geographic. And I feel like this is the coolest title though. She is Bones, the Sci superhero. So without further ado, let me just bring her in. And yeah, I know the next 30 minutes will be absolutely amazing. Good evening.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm a bit shocked by Johannesburg weather. I mean, we're enjoying the spring and then boom, clouds. And I'm like, why? I just packed away the winter clothes. I just packed them away. But
so you didn't leave one jersey out, at least one.
Listen, I'm wearing my Metallica Alice sweater. That's the only thing I had. And I was on site today, and they're like, "You're wearing that sweater again?" I'm like, "Yes, I am. Yes, I am."
Because I've packed away all my winter clothes. That's why.
Exactly. And to be fair, if I'm not wearing my Alice Metallica Alice sweater, I'm in a boiler suit. So I'm wearing my exploration suit, which is also quite warm. But yeah, that's another fashion choice for another day.
For another day. Okay, cool. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this and for being the first person to kick off hashtag SciComm September for this year. So that's really cool. We're starting on a high note, so that's exciting for me.
Yeah. It can only get better from here, guys. If I made it here, imagine what's coming after me.
Right. Yeah, science communication is amazing, and I'm so glad that you actually wanted to talk about it as a scientist, because I know it can be super terrifying. So well done on that.
Thank you. It's interesting. And in today's talk, I think we will change or enlighten the perception of science communication, because it's not what you think it really is. There's more to it than what you're seeing on your phone screen right now.
100%. So let's get right into it. Let's get to know you just a little bit. So tell us a little bit about your career journey. How did you get here? And why did you end up choosing archaeology? You could have chosen anything else.
I could have chosen anything else. And I think this is a bit of an old story to some of my followers already. But I stumbled across archaeology, or I decided I wanted to be an archaeologist when I was 7 years old, after watching a cartoon with my mom on a Saturday morning. And that cartoon was The Adventures of Tintin. I actually have a poster of the first episode we watched together in my office, and I carry it around to every office that I have. So I do this on every interview. Bear with me.
Okay.
Okay, my office is falling apart.
But okay.
So this is the poster that I have.
Wow. Okay.
Tintin, Cigars of Pharaoh.
Now we can see it. Yeah. There we go.
So that was the first episode that we ever watched together, and I was just captivated by Tintin. And Tintin is not an archaeologist in any form. He's rather a journalist, and he covers stories on ancient artifacts, myths, and legends. And he goes out on adventures with his dog Snowy and his best friend Captain Haddock. And I was just captivated by the fact that you could travel and learn so much about peoples and a culture just based on scraps that are left in the ground. And you know, I turned to my mom and I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be Tintin. And my mom was like, oh, you want to be... So my parents are doctors, by the way. They're medical doctors. And my mom was like, oh, you want to be an archaeologist? And I was like, yes, I want to be that word. And basically, I spent my entire childhood obsessing about this idea of becoming an archaeologist. And what I think is really important is that there weren't any Black archaeologists that I could see in the record growing up. So I was going into this blind. I was thinking I'm going to be the first female Black archaeologist in South Africa. Yes, let's go. And I based all of my English speeches, because you know you have those English oral speeches and Afrikaans speeches as well. Now just imagine doing an Afrikaans oral on archaeology.
Wow. Okay.
That was I tried that.
You did it.
I did it once. I also did it for my isiZulu matric oral exam, and I feel like the examiners were just like, you know what, this girl is trying. So let's like give her a thumbs up.
So basically, this is something that has always been in you, and literally from the tender age of 7, you're like, this is what I want to do, and I'm sticking to it, which is absolutely amazing. Thinking of sometimes with kids, I'm like, you have like 20,000 different careers as a child before you eventually have your career when you're an adult. You're like, oh, I want to be a policeman and this and this and this, but you're like, archaeologist, that's it, and here you are.
I stuck to my guns. I was like, I'm going to be an archaeologist. I was obsessing over it during my childhood, got to university, studied archaeology. I even studied in the UK. I did my master's in England after having written fan mail, actually, to one of the professors that I really admired. And she was like, you sound pretty cool. Please send me your CV. So, I mean, at first I thought it was spam, but I was like, you know what, let me just send it. I sent it. Yeah. The next thing I knew, I was sitting in a Skype interview, and that's revealing my age a little bit, because there was no such thing as Zoom. There was Skype. There was Skype. So I was sitting in the university library. So I studied at the University of Pretoria, sitting there doing the Skype interview. And the next thing, I was on a plane to England.
Amazing.
And yeah, and then from there, I was on a plane to Cape Town. I lived in Cape Town. I learned how to dive, and I was excavating shipwrecks. And then I was teaching archaeology, and then I'm in a cave digging up ancient remains. And then I became a National Geographic explorer. And quite recently,
that's
like a month ago,
title, yeah.
Yeah, and then so National Geographic happened in April, and then a month ago, like in August, we just launched that I became a superhero character for a comic book that we're trying to get together with super scientists. So that was it's been a ride, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, and actually, we're actually going to speak a little bit about Bones, the sci superhero. We are going to speak about her a little bit later on, just later on. But before we get to that, I just want to speak about your archaeology and Africa, right? So what role does archaeology play in Africa, and have we made a significant contribution to archaeology?
Okay, so I think the best way for me to tackle this question is, what is archaeology? And archaeology is basically, not basically, but I can liken it to time traveling, right? So usually when you, time travel is seen as a SciComm concept, like it's science fiction, right? But it's for real. Like if you get onto a plane and you travel to America, you're traveling back in time because they're behind us. If you're traveling to Australia, you're traveling forwards into time because they are ahead of us. Now, archaeology goes way back into time. And archaeology is basically the study of the human past. So we go out there and we dig on sites and we uncover artifacts from a time long gone. And we learn from those artifacts who we were in the past. And we, I mean by us as humans, as a population, as a community, who we were in the past. So we don't forget who we are, where we came from, and that sort of helps us project into the future, right? Yeah. So that is archaeology. And what has archaeology in Africa contributed to the world? Quite a lot. As we see in the Cradle of Humankind, which is not so much archaeology, because archaeology is quite recent. It's the last, archaeology can be the last 100 years, but we push it to the last 300,000 years. And paleoanthropology goes beyond that. So it's looking at our ancient human ancestors, which are the hominids and the hominins that we get. So they're often depicted, this is the worst description that I've read and I've seen, is that we're monkeys that evolved into humans. So paleoanthropology goes into that, to seeing that who are these creatures and how have they formed the Homo sapiens, which is us as humans. And putting the puzzle pieces together, because that's what archaeology is. It's about putting the puzzle pieces together in order to create this lovely picture that we have today.
Okay, so can you mention one example that it's probably a very difficult question, but try. Okay, if you can't mention one, mention three things that Africa, or that have been found in Africa in terms of in the archaeology field, that has contributed a wealth of knowledge to the world.
Yeah, this is a very difficult question to think of one. But there is the Taung child, discovered in 1924, attributed to Raymond Dart, and Mrs. Pless. To any of you that have been to Sterkfontein caves, you will know about Mrs. Pless, discovered in 1947, I think it was, by Robert Broom. And these two specimens actually show that humanity originated in Africa, and not just Africa, but Southern Africa. And this is quite significant because at the time it was thought that Africa had nothing to contribute to the world. We were seen as being very backwards. And then these discoveries, which are quite early, 3 million years old or something like that, and we were seen as, actually, you know what, the modern European world evolved from us in Africa. So take a seat. Take a seat if you think that we are backwards, right? So that's a hominid and paleoanthropology record. And then you go into the archaeology, where we're modern humans, and you have things like Mapungubwe and Great Zimbabwe, two huge kingdoms that were quite rich and attracted explorers from India and from China, and trade networks happening. These were places in Zimbabwe and Limpopo of South Africa that are the equivalent of Johannesburg, the hub of the continent. This is where all the trading was happening, where industry was happening. And it's incredible. It's incredible to see this in the archaeological record. and cities are now being developed. If you have the opportunity to go to Limpopo and to Mpumalanga, actually, try to visit all these archaeological sites. And on some of the rocks, you can actually see the designs for how the city would be shaped. They were actually etched into the rock. And they're sort of like the blueprints in which architects today use in order to build cities. It's incredible.
That's amazing. It is incredible.
Yeah.
And I asked you that question specifically because of that, the fact that, Africa is not seen as having anything to offer, really. Like, oh, we're so behind, we probably still wear animal skin, blah, blah. But we've contributed so much, but there's very little acknowledgement of our contributions. So that's why I just wanted to ask you that question, be like, hey, let's shine a light on science in Africa, because that's what we're about, shining a light on science in Africa. So let's talk a little bit about SciComm. What is it,
SciComm.
according to you?
Exactly. What is SciComm, right? SciComm has been a trending buzzword recently, and it basically boils down to communicating science to others, right? So communicating your ideas and theories to other people. And this is not a new concept. We've been doing it for a long time as academics in the form of book chapters or books or journal articles. But the problem is that sort of SciComm is only accessible to other academics, so other people that are interested in the science and are going to universities and have access to all these papers. Quite recently, that has now changed in that SciComm has an entertainment value to it. So thank you, social media. So we have things like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, in which scientists can sit behind a camera and be like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is my idea. What do you think about it? And that's what SciComm is. It's basically just sharing your ideas with the world and getting their opinions about it, or doing outreach on an idea that you have. Yeah. And this is a very new world for me, to be honest. And I guess this follows later on into our conversation, in that I only started really getting into SciComm in 2018 when I had a mental breakdown, and I was like, this can't be my life. This is boring. So I switched it up, and here I am today.
Okay, so let's speak about how you got into it, why you got into it and how you got into SciComm. So let's just touch a little bit on what was happening and why you're like, okay, maybe SciComm is the route, and why did you choose to communicate using social media? You could have gone maybe the traditional route instead, I don't know, writing a blog, maybe, instead of going on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. You could have just written a blog or printed out newspapers and handed them out in the street. Why did you go social media?
Yeah, so I actually started a blog, and the blog was basically just to document my life in York, in the UK, when I moved there for my master's. It was just a way for me to keep in contact with my family and my friends back in South Africa. And I didn't know I was doing SciComm at the time, because SciComm, as we know it today, didn't exist. Again, I'm revealing my age. Bear with me.
Okay. It's a well of wisdom.
It's a well of wisdom. So in 2018, I was coming towards the end of my PhD. I had collected my data, and I was doing the hard graft, the hardest part of a PhD. It's sitting down, getting your data together and writing it up. At that point, you've been doing this research for about 2 to 3 years, and you're hurtful. You're like, I don't care anymore. I want a life. I want to see my family and friends again. So I had a bit of a mental breakdown, and I took a break. And that's when I joined Lee Berger's team and becoming an underground astronaut. And if anybody knows Professor Lee Berger, you know that he's all about social media, open access to science, and he's really like the loudspeaker for South African paleoanthropology. And when I was named one of the new recruits on his team, he posted it on Twitter. And my Twitter was blowing up. Mind you, I joined Twitter in 2005, 2006, again, revealing my age. And my Twitter exploded. Like, there were all these people that were so interested in what we were doing. And every day we posted what we were doing. We posted photos and videos of us underground in dangerous situations, digging up bones and stuff. And I was like, this is pretty cool. This is awesome. But also I was quite reserved. And I think this is my style of science communication, because you have all these, at the time in 2018, you had all these science communicators that were talking about like hardcore science. And if I go into the paleoanthropology record, they were talking about specimens that they worked on, or commenting on hominid material, like very in-depth stuff. And to be honest, I find it quite boring. I was like, listen, if I wanted to go to a lecture, I'd go to class. Like, I'd really go to class. And so I decided that, you know what, I'm not going to do the traditional SciComm route in terms of writing papers. I should be writing papers. I should be writing journal articles, which I promise I'm doing.
We believe you.
Yes, me being on Instagram right now instead of writing a journal article. But I didn't want to sit in front of a camera right now and talk about a fossil that we found, or a fossil that was found in China, for example. I wanted to create a brand, like a public figure brand, that was different from what I was already seeing on my timeline. And that was a woman, a Black woman in exploration. And that's where my hashtag, which I started this year, Black in Exploration, came about. And it's basically all about the ins and outs of being a Black female in this role of exploration in South Africa. So I take you through not just the scientific stuff that I do, but also like normal everyday stuff. Like, I joined Instagram in 2012. And like normal people, I was just like taking note of my daily life, right? And now I do it very purposely, in that I only curate my scientific endeavors if I'm driving the Beast, which is the black Jeep that we have, or the Toyota machine tank that we drive around, which does not have power steering, by the way. So I have been lifting like a bro in order to drive the YSC along with the guys. So the exploration team is largely made out of males, and I'm the only female on the team at the moment. So I've been working out so I can drive the YSC, and I'll be like, yeah, I'm one of you guys.
I can do this.
I can do this.
Yeah.
And also, like, getting the upper body strength helps a lot when crawling around in caves, because you use your legs. I have very strong legs. Thank you, African genes, for thunder thighs. They come in handy. Don't be ashamed of your thunder thighs. They're actually quite strong.
Yeah.
But also having the upper body strength in order to pull yourself out of situations. So I wanted to document that, and that is what I sort of branded myself as, this Black female explorer. And in some ways, I didn't know it at the time. I was just doing it for funsies. I was like, listen, I just wanted something different from fingernails and hair and makeup tutorials on Instagram. I just wanted something like real and hardcore, because I'm a bit of a tomboy at heart. And then I got an email from National Geographic. They're just like, hey, you seem pretty cool, and you seem to be the kind of person we want to work with. Do you want to be an explorer? Well, they didn't say, do you want to be an explorer? They're like, you're an explorer. Do you accept the challenge? And I'm just like,
Yes.
okay, I will do it. I will do it.
Yeah.
So earlier this year in April, I became I don't know how many classes, but there are a number of classes, but I became the latest class of emerging explorers from National Geographic, the last of the emerging explorer class. So after my cohort, there won't be an emerging explorer. It will be called something else, but I was the last class of that. I'm also one of 2 Africans on the list for this year, and the only South African as well, the only Black
So
South
that's
African.
a huge achievement, actually, right there. You are, carrying South Africa.
On my shoulders, actually. And I'm like, oh my God.
I hope it's not too heavy though. So it's not, is it?
Listen, it's been a crazy ride. I will say this, like since April, I don't think my phone has stopped buzzing, and my inbox is full with requests. And that's great. It's great. It's great to see that people are interested, and there is a shifting dynamic in how scientists are viewed in Africa.
Yes, 100%, 100%. So what are some of the challenges that you can say you've experienced trying to communicate science using social media?
Okay, so one of the challenges that I've had is this creating content kind of vibe. So there is often this pressure for content creators to create their content, and it's very hard to create content that is organic. And I think that's where my brand works, because I don't create content just for the sake of it. It all happens organically. So if you take a look at my Instagram profile, you'll see that the dates as to when I post things is sporadic. Either I'm posting 5 times a day or once every month, because I want things to be genuine and organic. Right. So I'm doing things as they happen and giving you real feedback in real time, right? And also there is this popularity contest as well. We're all sort of competing with one another, which is stupid. And I think that is what I really admire about my colleagues and friends, is that we're not competing against each other. We're helping each other get to that mantle. So we're always promoting each other. And that's how Super Scientists, the Paleo League, actually happened, is that I was approached and I nominated other people that I thought would make the team complete. And that is how that happened, right? And that was great. But also there is this backlash. We had this backlash where I received racial comments on Twitter, actually, where there's this man in America. I actually think he's one of my biggest fans, to be fair. I think he's one of my biggest fans. He's just not sure how to say that he really loves me because he's racist and he's not sure. But he basically just like called me this Black South African woman that nobody knows about, who hasn't done anything significant in her life. Why is she on the cover of National Geographic? And I'm just like, okay, thank you very much for affirming that I will be on the cover of National Geographic, which I haven't been. I haven't received a glamour spread, but thank you for sending that message out into the universe. I accept it.
It's coming.
I accept the challenge. And, you know, it's very difficult to be positive and upbeat when you have people like that in the world that are like, oh, but like Lee Berger, how can you let this girl take over your lights? And Lee's like, dude, like this is the future of Africa. This is Africa.
Exactly.
Science
Yeah.
should be done by Africans, not by Europeans and Americans like myself. So take a seat.
Exactly.
So yeah, so I mean that was one of the difficulties that I had, in that I just had to accept, I just had to sit back and let these hate comments come at me and not do anything, because you have to be graceful, right? You have to be
Yeah.
very graceful about it. Although inside you are swearing
You're
like a
burning, yeah.
sailor.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay.
Yeah,
But
you're
you know,
doing great. You're doing great.
oh, thank you.
One thing that I know could happen is that we could end up talking for the whole hour.
Forever.
So let me just ask you one last question and then we can close it off. How do you think science communication can be done better? Or what advice or tips do you have for science communicators or for scientists who are just like, ugh, this thing is scary?
Okay, so one of the things that science communication can be made better in terms of social media, right? That's what I'm going to
Yeah.
focus on, is that if there is a scientist that is communicating the science that you like their comment, like their content, right? Let them know that you like their content by leaving comments, likes and comments. I'm going to sound like a YouTuber right now, but it does very well for our algorithm and mental health. It lets us know that we're doing something right? And if you have any suggestions as to how to make it better, let us know, because sometimes we're so stuck in our way of doing things that we don't think anywhere beyond that. And that is why I love super scientists so much, is that Justin Yarrow has created this thing where he's turned scientists into superheroes. So one of the comments that we received on Twitter was that we're the science Avengers. And I have sort of taken so in preparation for this Instagram live, I hyped myself up with the Avengers theme song.
Wow.
And you know, and that's the vibe that you get. And what's really great about super scientists is that it's taking what is seen as boring and unglamorous and turning it into something incredible, which it really is, and introducing it into the younger generation. So if you think about it, science is introduced to children when they're quite young, and then when they're at university level. And we sort of forget the teenage phase a little bit. And that really is the target that we need to be aiming for, the teenage group, because that's where kids pick their subjects. And that is where the main influence actually happens, the meaningful influence actually happens at that stage. So if you can target those people, it's great. But it all starts with a like, a comment, and sharing the content that your scientist is producing.
Okay. And we're actually going to have Justin in October on Instagram Live. So that'll be fun.
Yes!
Yep. So he's going to tell us all about the concept, where it came from, why he decided, let's do this. So everybody who's watching, make sure you're following Siakula Digital so that you don't miss the live. So yeah, in October, we're going to have Justin here and he's going to tell us all about sci superheroes. So that'd be fantastic. Keneiloe, I wish we had more time. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this live. I actually learned so much. And I'm sure everybody who was also watching was like, hey, Africa's on the map, guys. You evolved from here.
We've been on the map.
This is home, so don't be like, yeah, we evolved from apes, we started. No, this is home. This is where it all started. So I don't know if you have one last thing that you want to share, and yeah, that'll be it for today.
Something to share. putting me on the spotlight here. Explore, explore, explore. That has
Yeah.
been my theme for the year, and it will probably be my theme for the next couple of years. So check out my Instagram and Twitter on that. But exploration is actually how we evolve.
Fantastic. So everybody who's watching, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you follow Keneiloe. It's at Keneiloe across everywhere, right? On Instagram,
Yep,
Twitter,
yep,
at
yep.
Keneiloe. You'll
Again,
find her.
revealing my age. I was on social media as a hipster before everyone else joined.
Yeah, so she's at Keneiloe, and obviously we are Siakula Digital. Thank you so much, Keneiloe, and I hope we can bring you on again some other time on a different topic. And all the best with everything that you're doing. All the best with the explorations. Keep sharing. We'll keep liking and commenting and sharing as well. Yeah, thank you so much for everybody for watching.
Thank you guys.
All right, bye.
Bye.